Sobriety was the biggest and the best risk I ever took, and I'd totally do it again. It was really the moment that I chose uncertainty over self betrayal, and it shifted everything. Sometimes the biggest risk that you take is not loud or glamorous, it's simply just choosing yourself without any guarantees. In today's episode, we're going to talk about reframing risk, about why it feels so terrifying, and how you can really start to rebuild your self trust and regulate your nervous system when you actually take the biggest risk ever. Hey, and welcome to another episode. My name is Jennifer Sack, and I help sober curious people who are feeling exhausted and split into two end the negotiation with themselves and quiet the fear so they can transition it into their sober lifestyle with courage, confidence, and clarity. I do want to state that I am not a medical professional or therapist or licensed addiction professional. If you feel that you really have any mental health concerns or addictions that require some professional services, I encourage you to seek those out. Everything here is just for your information, for education, and for the support that I can offer you from my own experience. So, again, today we're talking about how risky it feels to move into the life of sobriety. It really feels like a big leap sometimes, but I'll tell you, is the biggest one and the best one that I ever took. And it really meant leaping into the unknown. And let's reframe that a little bit because a lot of times risks are truly a way for us to stop the self abandoning thing that we're doing. And when you come to a realization that using substances any longer just doesn't align with you, and you continue to do it anyway, you're kind of living in this mode of self abandonment, of self betrayal. And you start to create this underlying low tone of chronic tension within yourself because you're causing anxiety by not living in alignment with this sort of inner knowing that you have. Or maybe you're like it's a full blown knowing, but you just keep backsliding. So, risk, the word itself, risk, like just insinuates that you're doing something that could really make you fall flat on your face, that could have detrimental outcomes for you. It feels terrifying just thinking of the word risk. And moving into sobriety a lot of times feels like a huge risk. It feels like a leap into the unknown. But I want you to think about any sort of fairy tale or any sort of movie that you watch, a storyline or plot. There's always some sort of risk involved. And typically, that risk that someone is taking is in order for them to move into closer alignment with something that feels better for them, more on track for them, to get away from something that is holding them back or is not aligned with them. That's a lot of these risk taking things that all these characters are doing is really because they want to get closer to something that feels right for them. But the word risk comes in and we think, but that means I have something to lose. And it really kind of stops us short. But there are a couple different kinds of risk that you can think about. There is risk that is calculated and regulated, that has been thought over, that has been weighed out. And then there's reckless risk, where you don't even really consider everything around it and you just dive headfirst in. Now, sobriety is not typically like that. Because we procrastinate, because we're afraid of it, we tend to mull it over for quite some time. It is not a reckless risk. It is a well thought out, calculated risk that we're willing to take because we're no longer willing to abandon ourselves any longer. So let's think of it in that term, like risk, the word itself carries so much brevity. But if you really separate out different kinds of risk, you can say, okay, there's risk that makes sense and is logical and feels right and feels sort of supported. And then there's risk that feels risky. It feels like it's just uninhibited and totally not considering the factors, that is just like out of nowhere, that has no thought behind it. You're not taking that kind of risk. So you can shove that one out the door and say, yeah, this is a risk because there's no guarantee of what things are going to look like, what this is going to feel like, how I'm going to be able to cope day to day, who I'm going to be around, what might shift for me. There's no guarantees. So there is risk involved, but it's like a very regulated and supported risk that you're taking. And it's for the greater good of moving into greater alignment with yourself. Now, here's a tricky thing, staying stuck often feels safer than moving into uncertainty. And that's because we like the path of least resistance. We like familiarity. We like the predictable, even if those things are not helpful or are misaligned. We feel safer in a predictable thing. And we have gotten really great at tolerating just enough, and staying there in this state. Even though we know we would prefer to go over here, we're thinking it, we're getting the nudge. It's the unknown, it's super scary, and so we put it off. Now, the problem here is that that tug of war is going to be happening between coming into your alignment in this new version of yourself and wanting the safety net of your familiar patterns and habits of using your substances. And they're going to tug a war back and forth. And the discomfort is going to grow so great on the side of where you are still participating in a habit that you know is no longer aligned with you, that it will eventually topple over, and you're going to have the discomfort of the leap, but that discomfort is going to be way less than the discomfort of staying where you are. That's the moment where you can actually choose the risk too, because you're like, you know what? Either way, I'm going to feel some discomfort, either with the leap of the unknown or where I am. And when this place of where you are with that mental tug of war, that internal negotiation, that mental warfare going on all the time, the shame, the guilt, the I know I shouldn't be, all this stuff, the trying to moderate, all of it builds up so great. Then you can look over here and be like, yeah, maybe the discomfort that's this big from taking the leap into the unknown isn't so bad. I'm going to move into that camp. So that will eventually happen, because let's be honest, the more you resist something that is naturally pulling you towards it, the greater the force is going to build up, and it's going to topple over. Let's talk about how it feels in our body when we are forced to do something or we are choosing to do something. So, yes. Say you're going to have to move into a new direction, right? And it is the unknown and unfamiliar territory. If you are forced into one direction, that's going to feel so much more unstable and scary. If you're choosing this unknown, it's going to feel so much better. It's going to feel so much safer, because there's going to be this underlying level of safety, of like, I feel okay. I know this is right. I know this is right in my bones. I feel this is the right thing to do. And that's kind of what buoys you along the path, even though it is the path of the unknown. When you are tossed and tortured and made to do something that is not in alignment, that's when the risk feels greater. So I want you to reframe that too. This is not a choice that you're being forced into. I hope not. But really, the ones that stick, when sobriety really sticks is when you're not forced into it, because that just ricochets and backlashes. When you're making the decision from a place of alignment, that's when it feels more supported risk, supported journey into the unknown. So I want you to make sure that you're coming at this from the right frame of risk and where that actual backing is. Is it from your choice of alignment, or is this some sort of force that you're feeling that you have to do? You need to make the shift over into settling into what's best for you and just knowing this is coming from the right place. And that alone is going to be like, yeah, don't know how it's going to unfold, but I feel that it's right, and it's just going to carry you like a little, like, gentle little hand along the way. And that's also something you can kind of begin to consider, like, is this choice, is this risk really something that is self-led, or is it fear-driven? Am I being forced into this? Do I feel like it's more about consequences or what other people think? Or is it, what is really creating this? Now, sometimes we have hit rock bottom and there are consequences, and we really got to move a certain way. And that may feel very, very forced. But I'm wondering if you can somehow reframe that to the place of where this choice becomes self-led, a place of inner knowing and intuition that this is really like a better path for you. And I'm not here to judge you on what it is that you do moving forward or what is right for you, but I'm just saying that if you're going to take this risk, coming from a place of more of like an authority over it, like, all right, I'm choosing this and this is going to be because it's a benefit to me. is going to propel you and carry you so much more than just resisting it because it's fear driven. So look at what is really behind this choice to take a risk. So, a lot of everything building up to a choice to take a risk is very momentous and it's kind of like jolting to your nervous system. But I'll tell you, once you decide to take the leap, you just go forward. You just go forward. Think of all of those characters and movies and plots and everything. Like there's so much tumultuousness up until that moment. And then they flee the scene or they jump the ship or they take the leap, they quit the job, they do whatever. And then from that point on, that's when the self trust builds. That's when they begin to really build a foundation and have courage and confidence and move forward. It wasn't all that sticky mess before. It was the moment that they kind of like leapt 2 feet in and said, moving forward right now. So I don't want you to think that you need to wait for these moments of like to feel regulated, to feel calm, to feel that you trust that yourself or that everything's going to be okay. Like, don't wait for that moment. Know that that's going to come once you really do choose to take the leap of choosing yourself with no guarantees. Once you do that, then all the other factors will fall into place and just kind of rest in that confirmation from me that will happen as you move through the threshold. Don't wait for it before you do, or you'll just procrastinate forever. So just remember the biggest risk you can take is choosing yourself without guarantee. And I'll tell you, I would do it time and time again, over and over. After knowing what I do, having been sober for 5 years now, after decades of substance abuse, that is the best risk you'll ever take. And it's a regulated one, a well thought out one. It's not reckless at all. And if this resonates with you, please like, share, comment. Maybe subscribe if you want more of this. And if you're kind of standing on that threshold and just kind of really marinating in that spot, please watch my free online workshop. Enough is enough. It's going to walk you through a lot of the mental turmoil that we go through when we're standing at the threshold, debating over and over. All right, friends, until next time, have a good one.